So I know you've talked a lot about global liquidity, which I definitely want to get into. And I think you've even called sort of Bitcoin sort of like the smoke alarm or the fire alarm in the global liquidity cycle. So talking about maybe some of the real reasons why we've seen Bitcoin's draw down from 50%, would you point more towards, not, since it's not the boogeyman of the market makers, it's more about the global liquidity that we see receding?
Yes, and I've written an essay about 4 weeks ago about my read on the reason why Bitcoin has underperformed sort of big tech, Nasdaq, and gold, and it's pointing to a liquidity destruction or credit event that's going to be sponsored by, in my opinion, the displacement of knowledge workers, especially in Western economies, due to AI.
So you see a massive job displacement, meaning people get displaced and then they have to find a new job, but there's sort of like that in between spot, and that creates a massive unemployment to spike, tax receipts plunge, and then the government has to come in with a massive stimulus.
I think it's more akin to, yeah, we have a small increase. Maybe it's, well, I don't know if small is the right number, but an increase. Say it's like 10, 20% of people who lose their jobs because of AI automation, and they have credit to service,
Yeah.
mortgages, credit cards, auto loans. Especially in the United States, where it's a very flexible labor market, and consumer spending is something like 70% of economic activity, and most of it's leveraged. Then when you take the highest earning income group, knowledge workers, people who had a university education, who are doing some sort of like knowledge work, computers, lawyers, accountants, what have you, and you're taking out sort of the least productive members of that class, and you're saying, well, there's nothing here for you right now. Maybe they will have been retrained, probably in 3 to 5 years, but that credit card payment is due next month or in 10 days. And where's the bank going to get those funds from to service that debt? That's that asset on their balance sheet. And I think that's the issue. And it's not that everyone loses their job because of AI. It's we only need a small percentage of people to lose their job for the leverage embedded in the system to take over and cause a financial panic. And that's the point that I'm trying to make.
Yeah. So I think some people are already kind of pointing to that. Some of these credit funds are already having some risk show up there. But I think some would say that maybe it's too early to blame that on AI. Maybe some of that is just like a delayed hangover from COVID and too much spending there. So some of the weakness that we're already seeing in some of these credit funds, these private credit funds, do you think that's distributed to AI or not yet?
Absolutely.
Okay,
I think it's
already.
just it's people freaking out about software as a service. That's the main culprit here. And so these are, people who make tax software, accounting software. If you have AI that does it better for like, $10 a month, now you can basically do not need all these tools. And so these people have users, and these users are no longer spending money on memberships or however you want to call it, annual recurring revenue. And all of a sudden, these companies that were the darlings of tech for the last 15 years are zeros. Now, again, not everyone is going to replace every single tool with AI. That's not the point. The point is you have leverage in your balance sheet, and therefore people are like, well, how are you going to service this loan if you're down 30, 50% in terms of signups?
Yeah.
Because there's a tool that does it better at like one 1% the cost.
Yeah. I'd love to just pull on that just a little bit with you. I mean, as you're an entrepreneur and you're an investor, I wrote an article about a week ago, and I was just saying that I think there's a difference from the entrepreneur to the analyst. Obviously, right? Entrepreneurs take risk. They see value where others don't. They see solutions to problems that nobody else sees. They create solutions for those problems. So, like the goal of an entrepreneur is to go take territory, right? I want to go solve problems. I want to grow as fast as I can. I want to go claim the mountain. And so the entrepreneur is different than the analyst. The analyst is the bean counter, right? It's the Keynesian economist who wants to put everybody into like a spreadsheet and doesn't take into consideration like human action, if you will. And so I think from an entrepreneurial lens, I'm certainly an entrepreneur. I invest into businesses as well. Like I'm using AI to try to expand my business as fast as I can. Like, oh, I just freed up 4 hours from this person's time. Now he can do these other 3 projects that has been on my back order list that I haven't gotten to in a long time. And I think like the goal of a business is to grow. I'm trying to grow my profits and grow my revenue every single year. So why would I, as a business owner, want to fire half my team when I could just increase my product line or my business by 50%? And it seems like the number one job that's at risk right now today is like AI software engineers. But yet it's like one of the most in-demand jobs right now. So I don't know. As you're an entrepreneur and investor and you study this, I'm just curious if you think there's maybe something in there.
Well, I think let's take it look at it this way. Maybe as an entrepreneur, you're using a lot of services firms. You can do a lot of back office work, accounting, bill management, legal services, right? And if you as a customer can say, okay, I know I need to have a certified CPA, whatever, a senior person sign up on these accounts. But guess what? I can do everything up until this person signs this with a Claude bot or some instance of an LLM that's been trained on this type of work. I can do it perfectly. So no longer am I spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on junior level accountants basically doing ledger entries. Now I'm just going to the senior person saying, hey, here are these books. It's already done exactly how you want them done. Check it and sign off. And so all of a sudden, I'm no longer spending all this money on all this friction that's embedded in the economy. Yeah, sure, of course, entrepreneurs are going to hire, grow, give more work to people because of AI, maybe be able to do more with their business. But there's all these friction services that we use as business people that we no longer need if we have an AI who's very capable.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the issue. And it's not that, again, 100% of people are not going to leave their job because of AI. We're talking about people who are manipulate structured
Yep.
symbols. There's a legal system. It's just precedent
Yep.
and laws that's easily digestible by an LLM or accounting. There are rules. These are what you have to do. Give me the data. I'll hook into your data systems and I'll compile your reports in real time faster than you going to some big four accountant and spinning your wheels for months on end, spending umpteen hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars on accounting.
Yeah.
That's what's at risk right now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I see it. And to the point that you're making, it doesn't have to be a big chunk. It just has to be a little bit to really start to move things sideways. And I'm an edge case, I suppose. I just think about my own company. I have a couple companies, but the one that I mainly run, about 24 employees, I have like a bookkeeper or controller, but I've been needing to bring a CFO in, but I've been delaying. And I've built up these like AI agents that are like intelligent experts in all these different areas of my business. And I built up a CFO agent. And so I take the reports and I feed it into the CFO and then I give it back to her. But I found myself to be this middleman where it's like, now I'm just shuffling reports back and forth between my controller, my bookkeeper, and my CFO. I'm like, screw this. I'm just going to hire a CFO. That's not my best use of time. But maybe what she's doing could be automated, right? So then there's a blip there, right? So, okay, I'll get the CFO, but then maybe I'll get rid of her. And so to the point that I think you're making, which is warranted, there is a disruption coming. People are going to lose their jobs. So what would you say is the tipping point then that things start to really go haywire?
When people start recognizing that these people getting fired from companies like Block and Amazon have debt that they need to service, whether that's a house, credit card, car loan, whatever. And so there's going to be an aha moment in the markets like, oh, whether it's delinquencies rise, some very over leveraged lender goes, it's always the worst players
Sure.
who go bankrupt or something happens. And then people look at, oh, what was the theme that made them go bankrupt and extrapolate that higher up into the competency stack in terms of the companies
Yeah.
that are affected. And then, oh no, all the credit that's on the bank's balance sheets that's related to this income bracket is all of a sudden questionable. Do I really want to be exposed to a bank that has a lot of consumer loans or a lot of auto loans or this type of mortgage, right? That was what subprime was all about. It was again, not everybody lost money on their house or was liquid. We're talking like 10%, 10, 15%, and that was enough to literally cause a global financial crisis.
Yeah.
So again, it's not about a massive number of people. We only need just the start of this trend,
Yeah.
and it's really going to impact the banking system.
So what do you think the domino effect of that? Obviously, 2008, we saw the domino effect. It brought down basically the whole banking system. Took back then it was so much money I couldn't believe it was like 700 billion for the TARP package. It's like, no, you can't spend that much. Now it's like a drop in the bucket. But in 2023, we saw 3 banks go down, and they had a bailout package in 6 days, right? So from Bear Stearns collapsing, it was like was it almost a year before the bailout
Here,
package, right?
yeah.
And then in 2023, 3 banks went down. We had 6 days. So I'm curious what you think sort of that domino effect is. Do the banks pull a 2023, step in, put the bonds on their own books, paper over that, or kind of how you think that cascades through the system?
So again, I don't know what the trigger will be. I think it's going to be in sort of these smaller banks that will have more exposure to these types of loans and who don't have the government guarantee. But to your point, there is no appetite for any whiff of deflation or a credit event. And so if we even start to see a few banks wobble, you are going to see an immediate response from the Fed and the U.S. Treasury and other regulators around the world to sort of ring fence this problem because they don't want to suffer anything like 2008 again, which is why this can happen a lot faster than people think because the response is almost immediate, right?
Yeah.
A few days, and then here is a blanket, sort of bailout for the banking system, and that's going to happen. Except in this case, this is a structural problem with you have on one hand every single major government saying AI, AI, AI. We have to win the war against AI. We have to upgrade the capability of AI, and the first casualty are your workers who have the highest propensity to spend. And this is government policy. It's supporting the build out of all this capex to make these LLMs faster and cheaper and all these things. So it's and again, and you could go back to 2008 as well. It was government policy to get as many people in homes as
Yep.
possible and loosen the underwriting standards and force banks to get into this business. It's government policy for us to underwrite AI at the national level, regardless of where you live, and therefore the consequences are going to be massive. And again, it's a government pushing this as well. It's not just entrepreneurs who say
Yeah.
we have to do AI.
It's almost like this fiat-based, debt-based monetary system is incompatible with the growth of technology that we need.
What do you know? Yeah.
It's almost like that, but you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Where it's like, well, if you don't take on the AI and push to dominate AI, then you're going to fall behind and you're doomed that way. But if you do push it and it wipes out all your workers, you're doomed that way as well. So it's sort of like there's like a no-win scenario there. I've seen a lot of talk about, I mean, I think Sam Altman said that they have way more advanced models they could produce, but they don't even have the energy for it. We have a massive commodity crisis, an energy crisis. They can't build the data centers fast enough. Of course, we'll jump over to what's going on in the Middle East, but data centers are at risk over there. It seems like already currently our ability to create energy in data centers is slowing down the rate of AI growth. Could that be enough of a brakes to slow roll this a little bit so it's not as catastrophic as maybe we think it would be?
But again, we'll see what sort of, especially we're talking obviously in the United States and China, there's plenty of energy because of the decisions that the government has made over there in terms of how they're going to electrify their economy. But if you're talking about the United States and maybe I guess parts of Western Europe, yes, they have this issue of like there's a lot of demand to build data centers, there's not enough energy supply. I think we're going to see more instances where you have these hyperscalers are going to go straight to the source and start, you know, buying power plants, buying utilities, buying stranded energy resources, and basically just putting up a data center off the grid. That's already starting. It's only going to intensify now that, data centers in the Middle East are getting droned, and you really don't have any security over there. So yes, it'll half the rate at which that grows, but the cure for high prices is high
Yeah.
prices in the commodity space. And so they're going to find these resources and provision them to building out of AI. So I'm not, yeah, it could slow down, but again, the price differential between a properly trained agent to do accounting and, a junior level, mid level, CPA, it's still, like 99.99% more cheaper to use an AI if you can get it to do the things you want it to do.
Yeah.
We're talking about a per month cost. So yes, the cost could go up, and you can see people spending massive amounts of money on inference on these AI models. But you have to pair that against, well, what would I spend for a team of humans to do the same work? And I think it still comes out to be much cheaper in certain very specific use cases to use these AI models.
Yeah. So in that situation, I mean, that's bad for any number of reasons. Situations can be good and bad at the same time. It almost seems like from a investing standpoint and from like a global liquidity standpoint, the bad news is good news, meaning people are going to lose their jobs, credit funds are going to blow up, but the Fed's going to pump in a bunch of liquidity.
But it's path dependent, meaning that sure, you need to get to the bailout, but to get to the bailout, you need the crisis. And so we need things need to go down and price pretty quickly, and that's what Bitcoin is telling us. There's not enough money being created. The the authorities still believe that AI is this productivity tool and will help them escape the debt that they have to pay back because productivity is going to elevate so fast per worker. But they don't believe that there's going to be mass layoffs or enough to cause an issue in the banking system. And so there's the economy there, and that's what Bitcoin is telling us. They're not printing enough money
Yeah.
to counter what is going to happen in the near future until they get to that religion. Oh no, I need to print more money. then Bitcoin is going to be, at these levels or maybe even a bit lower. We'll see.
Yeah. Hey, if you like this short conversation I just had, you're going to love the full length conversation. Don't miss it. You can go ahead and click right over here, and I'll see you over there.